When you master your mindset, you free yourself to achieve the level of success you desire. Frederique Murphy. We always seem to compare ourselves to the people more successful than us, or to the success we want to have. Rarely do we turn around and look at all the success we have had and how far we have come. When you do that, you can be grateful and content with what you have. The reality is, most people listening to this podcast are in the top couple % of success and income in the world, and living with more luxury than most people in the history of civilization have. Welcome to Richer Soul, your journey to a more purposeful, intentional, amazing life. Where are you going to go and how are you going to get there? Let's figure that out together. At the core is financial well-being to be able to do what you want, when you want, how you want. Freedom. Some quick announcements. I'm going to do 3 more episodes, and after that, we're going to find top experts in all these areas and have them on the podcast to dig deeper into the subjects. I'd like to get episodes out once a week. I'm also going to offer a free 2-hour coaching session to anyone who'd be willing to have their session recorded and released as a podcast episode. I believe it's important for you to hear stories from other people and see how they struggle and overcome their financial issues. Don't worry, we can change your name and keep personal information off the recording. If you're interested, please email me at rocky@richersoul.com. Also, if you have feedback, please do the same, as I'm learning how to podcast and get the message out clearly and succinctly. So often we have great intentions of what we want to do, and then we don't do it. Sometimes we sabotage our own success, and other times life gets in the way. In addition to overcoming ourselves and our limiting beliefs, we also have to overcome our genetics. The world has dramatically changed in the last 100 or so years. Life used to be very different 500 years ago, and for thousands of years, it barely changed. We are now living in a time of the bend in the compound interest curve where things are rapidly evolving at an ever-increasing pace. However, we're not genetically designed for this. Our human responses are designed for a different, less complicated time, and evolution just doesn't happen in 100 years. The foods we eat, the way we live, and how we do things is so different. 200 years ago, moving was a monumental task. Today, people can move across the world with little effort. Today, our tribes are far bigger, and the ability to connect across the world is unprecedented. The telephone, air travel, computers, TV, internet are all inventions of the past 100 to 150 years. We are designed to live in a different environment, and our body automatically does things based on ancient programming. We blink automatically. Our fight or flight systems trigger without thought. Fear was natural because it helped us survive in a dangerous world. However, we no longer live in that world. Some people have learned to watch for some of these signals. A good poker player often watches their opponent's eyes when they draw a new card. What they are looking for is to see the micro reaction of their opponent's eyes to the cards they draw. If their eyes widen, that is, if their pupils get big, that means they like the new card that they received. If their pupils get smaller, it probably means that they got a card they didn't want. This is something we do without thought. You can overcome this, but it has to be intentional. Advertisers know people will react in a certain way, and they create those situations. McDonald's and Coke know how to get you to love the taste of their products and crave more. We are genetically inclined to want sugar, but sugar was never so freely available as it is today. You need to overcome this. The advertising is built to make you feel inferior. Why? Because if you felt great or didn't have a problem, you would never buy their products. Think back to the example of the car. If you loved your car and thought it was perfect for you, would you buy a new one? And yet all those people, the salesman, the car dealer, the finance guy, the loan person, the auto manufacturer, the truck driver who delivers the car from the factory to the dealer, and your boss are all rooting for you to buy that car for their own selfish reasons. That's a lot of pressure to overcome. I know, we just bought a new Mercedes E-Class. I get it. Remember, this podcast isn't about frugality, but about being purposeful in how you spend your money and enjoy your life. When you have the ability to buy expensive things without changing your life, you should enjoy them, but not until you have the resources and freedom in place to do so. Psychologically, we make irrational decisions. Surely you know these situations and you see them all the time. You ask yourself, how could they do that? We unconsciously spend our decision-making time not really making a decision, but instead searching for justification for the decision we've already made. In other words, we make excuses. We tell ourselves stories. Let's try a trick. Think of a number between 5 and 12. Did you pick 7? Most people do. In the same way, if you were offered a choice of 30 different types of jam, you won't buy any because there's too many choices. However, if you're offered a choice of 3, you're much more likely to buy 1. We have certain programs running inside of our mind that are designed to conserve brain energy and keep us safe. Marketers have figured out these patterns and use them to get you to buy stuff or make you feel bad so that you want more. I recently read a book called Influence by Robert Cialdini, and he talks a lot about this topic, specifically what he calls the click-whir reaction. We have conditioned responses to certain triggers. If someone sticks out their hand to shake yours, you automatically reciprocate even if you don't like that person. Along the same lines, social proof. 4 out of 5 people prefer this product makes you think it's good, or that the higher price equates to better quality, even though this may not be the case. Many studies have been done to prove how wrong this is. If someone gives you a small gift, you feel like you need to reciprocate. That is how all these home-based selling programs like Avon and Amway and so many others work. You go to a friend's house, they let you win a small gift, and then you feel compelled to buy the junk they're selling at high prices that you don't need. Learning to overcome the click-whir is what we need to do, and it's almost impossible. However, we can start to be aware of it, know what it is, and then we can rashly attempt to say no. For me, I know it so well. I love electronics. Every time I walk into Costco and I see that massive TV display with the newest LED 4K screens with an amazing picture quality and 80 inches wide, I want to buy it. I don't even know why, because we have a large TV in the family room. I also have a projector in the basement with an 8-foot wide screen, and we have the ability to show movies on the side of our house. The screen's 25 feet wide outside, and the worst part is I hardly watch TV. And yet, when I walk into Costco, click-whir, I need a new TV. Thankfully, I've learned to say no to myself. I know the urge is there, and I walk away. That said, one day I may fail, and we may have a new 80-inch TV on the wall that I'll watch a couple hours a month, and I'll be happy for about 2 weeks until the new, better TV shows up at Costco. On the other hand, I'll have the old TV sitting around, and that will make me mad because it's an eyesore now, and I don't have a place for it. By the way, can you do me a favor? Remember to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes so you know when a new episode is released. And if you like what you hear, please leave a review or rate the show. It helps to get the word out. And lastly, if you know someone who can benefit from this information, please share the podcast with them. And if you have a question or comment, or I get something wrong, please email me. It's rocky@richersoul.com. See, now that I've given you so much valuable information for free, I'm asking for something in return, trying to set off that click-whir. Now back to our unconscious decisions. All of this is going on at the unconscious level. Many times our unconscious mind is not in alignment with our conscious mind. You know that you want to eat less, and then you end up eating more and not even thinking about it. It's mindless activity. Conquering the subconscious means we have to overcome the fears or scripts that lie underneath the surface. Why do we behave the way we do, and why do we sabotage ourselves? Many times we expect people to behave in a certain way. However, we don't always get the response we expect. Bringing together our naturally programmed ways and overcoming ourselves is a difficult task. However, at some point, you may have an epiphany, and in an instant, everything changes. Have you ever seen a Tony Robbins video? He literally cuts to the heart of the matter with people. He knows how to get to that point in you and bring out that instant change. By the way, if you're not well versed in money and finances and the psychology of it, I would suggest that you read his latest book, Money, Master the Game. I don't agree with everything from a financial point. However, you get to understand all the issues at play, both within yourself and those against you, and you also get to see how billionaires think and behave. Definitely worth the read. However, it is a big book. If you're not much of a reader, he does bold the important information so you can skip everything in between and just read the bolded parts. A couple other classics are The Millionaire Next Door and, of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. All of these books touch on how to look at money differently. You need to change your money story, and these books will help you. Unconsciously, we always think the grass is greener on our neighbor's lawn. And yes, there are people who are going to be better than us. I call them the naturals. People who are naturally great at something many times will peak early in life, but those who struggle to learn and keep grinding it out over time actually end up better in the long run. So if you don't think you're good at something, or you see people who are naturals, don't fret, just start and keep going. I've heard stories from people in sports that the kids who were naturals going into college are not the ones who end up going pro. Why? Because the first time they face discomfort or defeat, they give up. Being a natural, they never had to deal with it. And when they do, they don't have the coping skills someone who is grounded out does. I've heard the same thing about education and kids who go into college and those who graduate. It's the ones who came into the subject struggling and put in the hours of work who ended up ahead at the end. Part of that is because they learned the why, whereas the naturals just do it and they can't explain it. That also means that they don't know how to fix it when things go wrong because they don't understand the mechanics of it. Nor can they teach someone else because they don't know how they do it. They just do. So if you're not an expert, start to work on being the expert you want to be. Watch the naturals figure out what they do that's different, understand the why and how it works. The best way to do this is to learn from other people's mistakes as well. There are millions of books and stories of people's struggles that they went through to get where they are. Learn from them. And remember, I'm not telling you to climb something akin to Mount Everest. Just climb a little hill. The difference between people is not a large gap, but a small gap. And overcoming that small amount is not so difficult. Too often we think we're the only one feeling this way or struggling with the issue. We are not. There are billions of people on this planet, and many of them have been where you are. Finding that group and connecting with those just ahead of you can help you through the grind. Remember, there are many people who are against you, and it's not really that they're against you, it's that they are for themselves. We're all greedy to our own needs. That creates a society where it seems like the world is against us, or we just need one more thing and it will be great. We're also very risk averse, meaning that we'd rather not win $200 if it might mean that we'd lose $100. We don't like to lose or miss out. Since the world has gotten much richer, we keep raising our bar to how much we need, and yet we are not happier with the higher bars. It just seems harder unless we just get off that hamster wheel. Psychology is not my strong point, but it's clear that we as humans behave far more alike and predictable than we can imagine, and marketers have learned those behaviors and how to manipulate us. It's important you are aware of how you react and ask yourself why all the time. Is that true? How do I know? Many of the things we take for granted are not necessarily so. The biggest discussion in our house right now is the value of college and how to pay for it. I don't believe in college loans, and I don't think college is worth over $50,000 a year for most degrees. While studies show a college education does equate to higher income, studies also show that a student who is admitted to an Ivy League college and does not go to an Ivy League college ends up at the same level as the person who did. See, it's the person that makes the college and not the college that makes the person. Sure, there are some colleges and professors that will open your eyes and change your life. But again, it's your ability to receive the information and take action. Otherwise, nothing they offer is of real value. So the story, go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a great job, get married, have kids, and you will be happy, isn't always true. However, that's the story you're told, and if you don't question if it's right for you, you find yourself in a place you don't want to be with a massive amount of debt. Since you've spent so long going down a path, it becomes very difficult to change direction. However, since our world is changing so fast, it's becoming easier than ever to do so. I tell this story because it's one of learned helplessness. It means that we can't perceive another way. They have shown you this with elephants in training. For example, when the elephant is young, they train them by chaining them to a tree or stump so they can't get away. They learn to stay in that space. As they grow older, they could actually get away because their increased strength would rip them right off the strap that they're bound to, but they have been conditioned and they won't even try. You may even have done this for yourself with your dog. If you have an invisible fence with a shock collar and spent a few days training your dog with the little white flags, they learn the boundaries, and regardless of if the fence or the collar is on or off in the future, the dogs stay contained. I'm sure you probably know someone like that as well, who's lived a constrained life and now won't leave that small box they live in. These outside forces create stories in our minds that we need to overcome in life. I would like you to challenge you to question all the stories and constraints you've been given in life and see if they are true. It could be work, dating, marriage, money, losing weight, religion, anything at all. Are the stories you live by real? Do those boundaries actually exist? Or is someone just trying to control you for their benefit? We also have cognitive biases, a system where we make irrational decisions in a systematic way. We do this to make decisions quickly and without much energy. As the world becomes busier and our choices grow, we need an easy way to cut through it all, and most often, it's not always the right way. So here's a blatant example of such. If you see an actor play a doctor in a TV show, we somehow think he actually knows about medicine. And when he appears in an ad for a medical product, we think he's trustworthy. Or maybe you saw the commercial from Certified Financial Planners, where they had someone talk to customers about financial planning and ask them if they seemed knowledgeable. The people all said yes, but it turned out at the end of the commercial that the guy was really a DJ. I'm going to link to the YouTube video of that ad in the show notes. People assumed that he was smart because of the location of the office, how he dressed, and the few words he used. Don't be fooled. The people on Wall Street who created the subprime mess made a lot of money, and they didn't have a clue of what they were creating, or they didn't care. History repeats itself with such examples of greed. The same things happened before in the 1980s with the savings and loan crisis. Don't trust anyone until you can verify what they have said is true, and also that you understand it. The same goes for me or anyone else you listen to. Make sure it's correct. Consider this your warning. The question we should always ask is this true, and how do I know? We so rarely go back to the source documents. Instead, we rely on others to tell us what they said. The news is a classic example where the truth is so distorted and everyone just keeps repeating the falsehoods until we think they are true. In finances, we really get carried away with this. While everyone knows you should buy low and sell high, research shows that people do the opposite. We tend to buy high and sell low. Let's face it, were you buying stocks in 1999 in the internet run-up, or real estate in 2006 when that was running up? Many people were, because they thought the prices would just keep going higher until they no longer did. My guess is you were also not buying stock in 2002 at the depth of the market, or real estate in 2011 when the market had crashed. At the depths of fear in those markets. So we don't buy low and sell high. This has been going on forever. Sir Isaac Newton bought into the South Sea Company, and that's a classic example. The company was created in the early 1700s and granted a monopoly on trade in the South Seas in exchange for assuming England's war debt. Investors loved this monopoly, and the company's shares began to rise. Newton bought in and sold out, making some money. But as it continued to rise, he got back in at an even higher price. Rumors flew and the frenzy developed. They got people who were elite to be part of the ownership, making it seem like it was worthwhile and trustworthy. Kind of like what Madoff did. Everyone followed the herd. Newton lost a lot of money and is quoted as saying, "I can calculate the movement of stars, but not the madness of men." These are not one-off events. They've been happening throughout history over and over again. In the 1600s, tulip bulb prices skyrocketed to unheard of prices. By the way, did you know that tulips aren't even native to Holland? This type of mania continues, and we've seen stock market crazes in the late 1920s and many times since then, and then after that, followed by massive crashes. And it continues to other things, like the Beanie Babies craze that was here not so long ago. We humans get caught up in the emotions of the event. No matter how smart we are, we do stupid. Why do we do this? Maybe it's the fear of missing out, FOMO. We see others getting rich, having success, and we feel like we're going to be left out. The smartphone and social media also capitalize in this. We think everyone has a better life than we do. Let's face it, how often are you going to post that you did something stupid and embarrassing on Facebook? We somehow have gotten stuck in this new smartphone device and constantly checking for alerts and emails, and it sucks away our ability to think. No one ever posts they lost the lottery the last 50 times they played, do they? Fears and worries prevent us from leaning in and trying something new. The last time you made a bold statement to try something new, what did people around you say? Our mind plays massive tricks on us. Have you ever heard of the placebo effect? A fake pill that allows us to feel better. What if we could fill our mind with placebos all day? Trick ourselves into being better, smarter, and more able than we are. When we push the boundaries, a funny thing happens. We sometimes achieve success. More often, we may experience failure, and unfortunately, failure is a bad word in our society. However, if we don't fail, we will never find the edges and push forward and do something greater than we think we can. Problems are actually good things because the more problems we have, the more we are willing to change, invest, and try something new. Marketers love to create problems for people they can solve because then they make money. As you listen to this podcast, I want to let you know that perfection prevents us from success because we keep waiting. This podcast launched because it was late and it was time, so I shipped it, perfect or not. Sometimes we just need to keep going and move on in spite of all the things holding us back or it not being perfect. There are tools that you can use to better understand yourself and how you behave. Two of the more popular ones are Myers-Briggs and the DISC profile. With these tools, you get a better understanding of yourself and how you behave and process information and react. Once we understand ourselves and our motivations, we have the ability to see our shortcomings as well. We can then address the issues and behaviors we don't like or are not strong points, and we can also leverage our strengths to achieve more. I suggest doing a variety of tests to learn about different parts of the way you act. No one system is perfect. The reality is we spend 90+% of our day operating in unconscious behaviors, and understanding how we react is the first step to making changes in the way we behave. Today's challenge, take one of the personality tests and learn more about how you behave. As for me, I'm an INTJ in the Myers-Briggs classification system. That means I love to create systems for everything in my life. Before we close out today's session, I want you to understand my role. It's a dual role. Part one is conductor. No, not the guy on the train taking the tickets. It's the one who stands in front of the orchestra. Too often in life, we have so many competing priorities, and we need to help in finding a way to keep them all in harmony. Work takes over, or family pulls us in a new direction, or our finances go south. Having someone to help look over all those pieces and find balance is the job of a conductor. The second role is Sherpa. If you want to climb Mount Everest, you need a few Sherpas, guides who know the way and can help you get to the top. In both of these roles, it has to be you that does the work. I'm just here to educate, guide, and teach and show a path. Since I don't know you personally, you need to make sure that this is the right path for you. In our next episode, we're finally going to chat about money. It's about time, right? Till we speak again.